Hiya, how are you? I am so knackered. I'm just looking in the camera and literally one of my eyes is not opening completely because I'm still recovering. Okay, this will all make sense, and I promise you this episode has got value for you. I want to come back to saying how happy I am that you are here and that you trust me enough to listen to this and to tune into whatever platform it is. I appreciate your time so much, and I don't want to waste your time, but I do want to tell you a little personal story in order for you to kind of see where I'm going with this. So I had my week of nights, and I finished last Monday. So I was, let me see. I need to call myself out because I was going to see myself talking and it's really distracting. Okay. So I finished basically, so today is Monday. Yeah. So exactly a week ago, I finished my night shift, right? And on my, I had a shitty week. I was French Bulldog, which I've written a lot of posts about. Check out my email, social media if you haven't yet. About French Bulldog, I saw for like some weird partial facial seizures, something. I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Otherwise, sent her home, and then like 5 hours later, she had a massive seizure and died at home. I had a complaint about an euthanasia I did, and one of the points was okay, I can get with that, which is like what I said could have come across as rude, and I apologize for that. But one of the things they complained about was me putting the IV catheter in front of the owners, like the owners were in the room. And I always take so much pride in placing the catheter with the owners. Because for sure, when I was a young and experienced vet, all I wanted was just to everybody to disappear and just be me, my nurse, and the animals, so I could just take my time and basically fuck about trying to find this bloody vein, right? So I take a lot of pride in that. Now I'm so quote unquote good at it that I can do it very gentle in front of the owners. And I don't have to separate the owner from the pet in the moment, like those last minutes they have together for euthanasia, right? So I was so shocked over this. So I had this complaint I need to deal with, and then something else happened, and then it was just like one of these weeks where you just like this is just going uphill, right? Now, the very very last night, so Sunday night a week ago, at 4 o'clock in the morning, my daughter calls me, my youngest daughter, and she says, "Mom, just please don't freak out." And I'm like, ha, mom instincts all on fire because that's really not what you want to hear at 4 o'clock in the morning. And she was in the hospital with her elder sister, who's 23. So the one that called me is 21. So they're adults now, but they're still my babies and they're really, really young. And the eldest daughter had abdominal pain and fever. So they're gone to the hospital. Her sister went with her and they thought it was going to be appendicitis. So when she calls me, my eldest had already put on a morphine drip because she was in so much pain. And I'm like, okay, just let me know how you get on. Tell me what's happening. Hang up. And then the nurse tells me that we just had a possible GDV coming in. So now I have to deal with this possible GDV that, of course, turned out to be not a straightforward GDV, but like this weird case that I don't even know what was. And I had to leave to the day team to work up after I stabilized it. I could not place a bloody catheter in this dog that was like 46 kilos. I had to use all four legs because I was just like, my brain was just not there. My daughter kept calling me and saying, now this is happening. She was sending me pictures. She was sending videos of this daughter of mine, like basically looking like a ghost and having to go into surgery. And it's so stressful. So imagine I then like fly home in the morning. And as I'm on the plane, they call me to say that they have they operated for appendicitis, and luckily it's not like a huge slice into the abdomen X-lab like I would normally do. It's a little laparoscopy thing. So, but they're gone in there, and the appendix was fine, and all they can see is she's got like some sort of localized peritonitis in the pelvis. Like, what the fuck is that? So now we don't have a diagnosis, we don't know what's happening, and I'm about to like fly now, so I had to shut off. And I was like, just in awe of how well I handled this and how I didn't crumble after the week I'd had that was already so stressful and so many things going on. And then this last night where I had to keep my head together and like be presentable for these clients that were worried about their dog. And this dog deserved full attention, right? It didn't deserve half my brain thinking of something else. And, my nurse and my clinical assistant were there encouraging me, but I was just like so happy that my brain didn't start spiraling out on all the things that could go wrong with my eldest daughter. Because I have a very, very, very vivid imagination. I've always had it. And like my dreams are not of this earth. Like what my head can make up is incredible. And I used to go to horror scenarios, like, worst case scenarios, like all sorts of like what could happen. The typical, right? When they're not home on time, then they've crashed, they died, they've been killed, all these things. And I've gotten so good at it now that even this happening, all the uncertainty, me being so far away, I couldn't, I just didn't spin out over it. And I was able to work through the shift and I was able to, get everything together. I was able to pack. I was able to tell the right people what was happening, check in, do all the things, get on the train, have to train, change trains 3 times to get to the airport and do everything without spinning out and fully functioning, right? And I know vets are really good at compartmentalizing. And if you're like me, when an emergency happens, you're just like, I don't go into panic mode. I just react. I just do. But it's different when the emergency is your daughter and it's another country and you can't do anything about it. You have to wait until you get there, right? And but it's because I have learned that no matter what shit hits the fan, being adding to the suffering by imagining all the things that can go wrong, imagining all the horror scenarios, and literally when we're imagining these things, we feel them. If I imagine, if I'm for a moment let myself go and imagine something horrible happens to my daughter, like I can feel it. My body thinks it's actually happening. This horrible event is happening right now. And it's a horrible feeling. And it's so much suffering to add on to a situation that is not needed. Because in that moment, my daughter was stable. She was on a drip and she was having morphine, right? So she was not dead, and nobody was telling me she was going to die the next 5 minutes. So there was no reason to start thinking that and spiraling out and all what could go wrong. And I know we do it, and I know it's difficult not to, but it's such a gift not to do it. And it it just goes to show, right? Like how you can have these things happening, and it's this the situation can happen, but you can learn how to deal with it. And another way this is happening right now is like all that's happening, like with the United States, with Iran, Israel, Palestine. It's such a mess, right? And I know I'm privileged. I'm not in any of those areas, and my heart goes so much out to all of them that are suffering the consequences. I feel like living in between Denmark and Spain. I am so blessed because right now it's just like it's the luck of the draw, right? We're born in a country that it right now it's just happened to be peaceful. So it's just the I know I'm really lucky. I know I'm really privileged, but I feel like I want to be informed and I want to help. I love like donating to charities. I have a specific amount of my salary that I donate to anything I can. I share like, I got Amnesty International. So I'm doing everything I can, but I don't let myself go over the news and keep watching and just imagining and keep like almost like living that situation with the victims, because there is no point. And me having that added suffering means if I'm spiraling out watching the news and suffering and imagining, not only I can be imagining with the victims of what is going on and then feeling for them and suffering, and then I'm not able to show up for my family. I'm not able to do this podcast where hopefully I can amend some of the suffering for some of you vets out there. Anybody listening to this podcast might feel some solace, some relief in what I'm saying in my post. And I can't do that. I cannot relieve suffering of others next to me. My husband, if he's hungry and he cannot cook for he could not cook if he tried. I cannot leave his hunger if I'm bright enough to like go out and shop and make dinner. No, it's like a little silly thing, but um you can function and you can make the world around you better if you are not letting yourself going into this suffering or something that's happening away from you, you can't control. And not only that, but all with this like the Third World War. And my daughter was panicking. She was like, "This is the Third World War." And I tell you, I remember I used to play the guitar and I actually had a little band when I was a kid. I was 7 years old, and I vividly remember I wrote a song. I recorded it. I wish I had that tape somewhere, like when we still had tapes. I recorded a tape, and it was me playing the guitar and playing about the Cold War, the Cold War, and it was about like Gorbachev and Reagan, and I was about this, and I remember recording the news, and I had them playing in the background to my song. I thought it was so clever. So I said to my daughter, "Listen, I've been making songs about the Third World War since I was 7 years old. So what is the point in keep worrying about it and worry what if it happened to me? What if it gets to my country?" Yes, you can like have a certain level of recognition and preparedness, have some bottles of water, generator, whatever it is the government tells us to have. But worrying about it and spinning out about it and the horror scenarios. I mean, if I think about a nuclear bomb hitting my babies, I mean, I cannot even exist thinking about it. And if it happens, we probably won't know, to be honest. So what is the point of worrying about something that hasn't happened yet? And a third example of this is it's something that comes up every so often when I coach my clients, that there is a change happening. So, for example, in the podcast, I can't remember what number it was, where a vet was really worried about the 50%, basically the workforce left the clinic, and she knew there was going to be changes in rota, and she was like really freaking out. Well, I was coaching someone similar to that recently, and we get so worried when there is a change, when something happens in the world, in our clinic, with our family, with the world, and our brain just starts making up these stories about what could be the possible consequences. And it makes sense that the brain wants to prepare us for what could possibly go wrong. And often this is like my go-to phrase when somebody does something at my clinic, like, oh, everything is like sorted, or, well, it can't be a GDV because such and such. And then I always say, what could possibly go wrong? Jokingly, and they all hate it for me and throw things at me. But it's true. Our brains literally will do the what could possibly go wrong. And such a little thing like being in the clinic and the vet leaving, or you being told that some things are going to change, or there are going to be some change of protocols, like that change is scary as well. And brain will try to like create like all the, it's almost like a flow chart. No, so change happens up here, and then you drop down, and then you have all the different routes that the events could take, like all the different paths that could happen. And it's like your brain wants to follow all the branches. Like if you watch me on video, you can see like I'm literally painting branches with my hands, and every little branch then branches out again, and then branches out again, like if this then that, if this then that, if not this then that. And there's just no way we can prepare for all of it, right? It's like trying to prepare for the Third World War. Like, how on earth, like, are you going to know what happens and when and what you're going to do? This just doesn't make any sense, right? Unless you're a politician and actually in charge of some of this shit. But if it's something even so small as your clinic, if you feel like there's a change, or you're going to even like change jobs, or you're starting at a new clinic and you're worried about starting because what if this, what if that, and what if I don't know? Your brain will try literally to create this flow chart with all, and it wants all the endings to be neat little bows with the perfect solution to all the possibilities there are. And there's an infinite amount of possibilities. And just when you think that, oh, if this happens, then I'm going to do this. If this happens, then I'm going to do that. Then your brain, because it's got a lot of imagination, it's going to create yet another path that could possibly happen and where things could go wrong, right? And it's just going to create all these things. And when we're spinning in it, we can't really see a way out. We just feel like there's all this uncertainty, and it just feels terrible, and we get really anxious to the point where I have coached clients that get panic attacks over it because they're so worried over this thing that they can't control. And it is literally just adding suffering on top. Like me having my daughter sick in another country while I'm dealing with a case and there's nothing I can do about it. Like people that are just glued to the television, watching the news and just worrying and worrying and worrying what's going to happen. What if the war comes to us? It's just adding to suffering. There's already some suffering in the world, and now we're adding to it. And when it's a case of a clinic, if a lot of vets leave and now you might have to change your rota or whatever, that's not even like that in itself is not suffering, right? And for this specific case, which is probably more realistic, that hopefully than the war coming to your country or your daughter being hospitalized acutely, if you have a specific case of something you're worried at your clinic, then I remember my client saying, well, well, I can't do anything about this thing, and this thing is what stresses me out, so I can't do anything about it. And I have to remind you that the thing, the change of vets, the change of rotas, whatever it is, the thing is not what stresses you out. If you go all the way back to episode 1 where I explain about the model, like you have to remember that a thing, a circumstance, a fact, something that other people don't do or not do or don't do, that cannot stress you out. What stresses you out is your thought about it. Because I was not the least stressed about Iran being bombed by anybody until I heard about it. And then I heard about it, and then I had thoughts about it. So the thing happening, it's not what stresses me out. Or my daughter was hospitalized. I didn't know about it. I had no thoughts about it. I was not getting stressed. So it's not her being hospitalized that stressed me out. It was the fact that I knew about it. And as soon as I knew about it, my brain started making up stories. And the same if something happens in the clinic. anything. It could even be such a silly thing as your manager, your clinical director saying, "Oh, we need to have a meeting," or "Could you pop by later because I need to talk to you?" Right? In that moment, them saying that thing is not going to stress you out. But your brain that then elaborates and creates stories around it, that's what's going to stress you out. And hello, you don't have any power over what another person says. You don't have any power over if other vets stay or go, unless you make them cake every day and try to like hold them back. You don't have a lot of power up over what's going on around you. And therefore, it's a marvelous thing that the thing that makes you feel bad, feel guilty, feel shame, feel stress, feel anxiety, it's not the thing, but it's your brain. It's your thoughts about the thing, because that means that you're in control of it. And I know sometimes it seems like we're not in control. I for sure did not feel in control of my thoughts before I started this work. And you cannot control the thoughts coming into your head because your brain is going to keep coming up with them. Your brain is going to do what it was created to do, which is to keep you safe and keep you alive. So, in order to do that, it wants to analyze all situations. It wants to analyze and prepare for all the possible accidents, negativities, whatever could come up, and it wants to prepare you for it. It's just not very helpful in this society, right? It was helpful millions of years or whatever, thousands of years ago when we lived in caves and we actually had some control over the little environment we were in. But nowadays, well, there's so many things out of our reach and out of our control, and and we have access to so much news around the world. It doesn't make any sense for us to try to control other situations. Because I mean, I can't even control my bloody husband. Like, why, why would we think that we could control anybody else when we can't control the one person we have next to us 24/7, right? Um, where was I going with that? Yes. So the marvelous thing is that you have the power to obviously know exactly what your thoughts are and managing them. You cannot stop your brain from thinking the thoughts because your brain is going to want to protect you. And that primitive part of your brain, that unconscious part of your brain, is always going to come up with those thoughts. It's just going to offer them to you and see, hey, is this helpful? Is this something you want to think about? Can you use this? Did you know this? Were you aware of this? And it's just going to keep throwing them at you. And that is always going to happen. And it's funny because a lot of people say to me, I just can't get rid of these intrusive thoughts, or like there was some enemy coming into your brain, but it's actually just your brain doing its work, right? And it's not something you can stop. Those thoughts are always going to come, and they're going to come one after another, one after another. Like I said before, around 70,000 thoughts a day. And hey, you can't control them, but you can control how you want to react to them. You can control whether you want to believe them. Can control whether you want to let your brain just keep elaborating. So my brain for sure came up with a lot of brilliant ideas of what horrible things could happen to my daughter until I could get to her. And I was just like, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, no, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's going to be fine. No, it's going to be fine. And not kind of like pushing the thought away and ignoring it, but just acknowledging it that it's there. And of course, it's a possibility, but why would I choose to believe that? I come back to like consciousness, come back to awareness of what I'm thinking, and then thinking, is this thought helpful to me right now? No. Is it true? Can I know it's absolutely true and this is for sure going to happen? No. So why keep believing it? I can say, I can park it now. Go away. I've listened to your brain. I acknowledge that thought. I don't think it's true. It doesn't have to be true. And it's not helpful. I can't use it right now. So bye. And I can only do this on the go now because I've journaled for so long, right? Like I always say, I used to journal like every day when I was in the life coach school. So for about 2 years nonstop, every day I was journaling. They made us do that as well. And it just created this incredible awareness of my thoughts so I can catch them on the go now. And I notice a feeling come up and I'm like, why am I feeling so anxious? Why have I got this knot in my stomach? And I'm like, what am I thinking? Wait a moment. I'm thinking it. And then I put it through that filter of like, is it true? Is it useful? Is it helpful? And then if not, gone. But I can only do it on the go because I've practiced a lot, writing them down in the mornings and night, right? So this is my advice to you, that if you feel like you're suffering a lot not necessarily from physical pain. If you feel you're suffering a lot mentally and emotionally in your life from things that happen around you, you have all these events out of your control and they're making you suffer. And there are a million things that make us suffer, right? It's like suddenly my brother doesn't talk to me. Suddenly something happened, my mom died. Suddenly, things can just like all the people I coach, it's just incredible how much suffering is out there and how many horrible things happen to us all the time. It's just like sometimes I don't even know just what to say. Like when clients are like, oh, this and this happened to me. And I'm just like speechless for a second because I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible. But, it happens to all of us. We all have horrible things happening to us. And horrible things will always be happening around us. And you always have a choice on how you want to react to it. That is your choice and that is your power. So to remember that, so if you feel there's a lot of suffering in your life, if you feel there's a lot of suffering around you, if you feel maybe things are hopeless because of the whole, how the world is right now in chaos, remember that you don't have to suffer because of it. You know, you can actually, park that for a moment. You can dedicate some time. If you feel like you want to help, do what you can to help, spread awareness, donate, whatever it is you have to do. But spinning in that suffering 24/7 is helping no one, no matter what it is that's going on. So that's what I want to say today. And I just feel like it was like so it was so like in the moment because of what happened to my daughter. She is, by the way, much better now. But I did have a little fright where, because she was on metronidazole and doxycycline at the same time, she started having some weird tingling feelings, like cold, really weird things in her hands. And then she called me and said, oh, it's spreading up my arms and now it's in my lips. And I actually thought she was going to have an anaphylactic shock. And for the first time in my life, I phoned the emergency number. Denmark is 112, because I was like, she's gonna die. That was kind of lost it. I had kind of like not slept in how long, and I thought she was out of it, and then that happened, so that I actually lost my shit there. And then I felt so much shame afterwards because I was like, because they were like, but she's breathing okay. I'm like, yeah, but she might not in a moment. And they were like, can I just speak to her because you're freaking out? And then I had to forgive myself because I'm a mom and I think we're allowed to freak out when we think our kids are dying for a second. I'm over it now. But she's home and she's much better anyway. So that was that. And did you know, two things I have to say before I get off. So did you know that you can actually write to me and ask me anything if you want me to address it on the podcast? If you have any questions, if you were like, I got that episode, but you didn't address such and such, or if something is going on for you, you can actually, there's a link in the podcast notes, and I think in the podcast notes you can reach it. Otherwise you can just ask me for it. But yeah, there's a link, and you can actually click on it and it's a little questionnaire where you can just quickly like put your question in or what you want me to address on the podcast. I think that's really awesome because when I listen to podcasts, there's for sure a lot of things where I was like, oh, I wish they would interview this guest, or why do they never talk about this? Like Jay Shetty, and I listen to Diver CEO and Tim Ferriss and just a lot of crazy people. So, and I wish like I could just like ask them, can you speak about this? Or can you interview this person? So I want to be open for you to do that if you'd like to. So that would be amazing. And what was the second? And the second thing is, I don't know if I'd mentioned it yet with all this crazy thing that went on with my daughter, but I have created a course where I basically take all the content I put into my retreats and I put it into a course. So it's gonna take you from the very beginning, the very basic grounded understanding you need about how our brain and emotions work. And we're going to go over 12 weeks. We're going to elaborate on that and just use very specific examples like I always do about VetMed. And I'm going to teach you in a very structured way because I know that a lot of the people I have been speaking to and emailing me about different things have said like, oh, I follow your podcast and this and the other. And I think it's a lot of things in the moment might be helpful. So let's say right now, for example, you're going through a changing situation and you're like, oh yeah, I can see how much I'm suffering. And it's actually a lot of it is in my head. So right now, this is kind of like helping you, it's soothing you right now. But to have a more like a structured program where you can learn the tools and build on them and integrate them into your life in a way that you then come out the course and then you can actually do it by yourself, right? You kind of like have the tools and you have internalized them in a way that now you can use them. And then you just use them forever, right? And I created in a way, I basically thought, what would I have liked to have when I started out? So it's going to be 12 weeks. I'm going to create a video that you can just watch on demand. Every week, you're going to be sent a link to a video where I just explain like this is what we're gonna learn this week with a worksheet, so you can like then try yourself, do some exercises. Then we're gonna have a group coaching call, and where you can all come on. So I'll probably do different times depending on, I can actually see where what time zones people sign up from. And then we can, depending on, I'll do different days, different times to make sure everybody can at some point come to the call. And then we'll get to have as many of us together as possible. And I will then, if there's a few things that people have asked or whatever, then I will address that about the subject we have that week. And then I will coach each one of you, answer any questions, so everybody can learn from each other and see how everybody tend to process these things, or what struggles we have, or maybe someone else ask a question you hadn't even thought of and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I always wondered that, but I didn't even think to ask, right? So we're going to have a group coaching call, and then you're also going to get, it's going to be 3 months, right? And then you're going to get 2 half-an-hour calls with me per month. So you're going to have 6 calls in total over the 12 weeks, where you're going to have one-on-one coaching with me. So you can say, listen, I was trying to do this model, and it doesn't work for me. I don't know how to work it, or I couldn't get to a result, or I tried to set a boundary and then this happened. And then maybe there's some things you don't want to get coached on in front of others. Maybe you're one of those people that never raise your hand on a coaching call where there's more people, and that's fine, because you're going to have individual attention from me. What else was I going to say? And then I'm going to have a Facebook group that's just going to be private, and I'm going to have maximum 15 vets there, because I want us to have a group that I can kind of manage, also because I'm not a social media manager, so I want it to be something I can control. And also so we can all, you can ask questions in the Facebook group. So if the coaching call is not that day, and you have a question, you're like, I don't really get this, or this happened to me, how can I get through the situation? And then we can all like see it in writing, and I can help you in the group, and only obviously the people in the group can see it, nobody else can. So I have found that incredibly helpful in the groups I have been in the coaching programs I've been in. So that's going to be really helpful for you as well. And yes, so when do we start? We start on the 1st of September. And people are already signing up now. I was actually surprised. I did the first post about it, and somebody's like, yes, I'm in. And I thought, oh my God. Because normally people like really have to think about it. But this lady was like, I want a structured thing, and I want it now. So she signed up already, and people are signing up. So if you don't want to get left out for this round, I don't know if I'll do it again. I'll see how it works. I'll see how I like it, because it has to be fun, right? So we'll do one round, and then we'll see how it goes. And because it's an introduction, it's I can't even remember what the price was. $250 all included for everything. So you get 12 videos, 12 worksheets, 12 group coaching call, and 6 individual coaching calls with me, plus the free coaching in the Facebook group. And obviously you have access to those videos I send you. They have access to them for life. That's just a thing. So I would definitely recommend that you check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes, and sign up now, because it would be really sad if you were like, I want to do this course, and then you didn't do it, and then more than 15 people have signed up. I've done that in the past, and it's been such a bummer. I think it's a no-brainer with the price if you're considering it, because that is very low. I'm doing it very low because this is like the beta group. It's the first longer group coaching program I'm going to do. So obviously I'm going to be testing out on you. You're all going to be my guinea pigs, which is not going to attract any value from it. It's just going to be a bit more fun and spontaneous. But that is the price I'm sitting at it now. I don't know if it's going to be that price next time, or if I'm going to do another time. So if it's interesting for you, I definitely recommend that you check it out. And if nothing else happens, I'll see you next week. Bye.